The truth.
Okay, collective. Most of you who have reviewed my profile know that I am a survivor of narcissistic abuse, as is my son. And those of you who have been studying the whole phenomenon, you have stumbled across the information regarding the effects that it has on your brain long term. It affects brain, okay, and causes the person to go into, it affects the amygdala, which then causes the person to operate more in the reptilian, you know, energy of the brain. Okay, now here's where I'm going with this. Survivors who decide to heal and transform empathic types, okay, they continue to work through that and ascend through that process, right? Now, here is something I want to invite you all to just recollect or think. Those of us that are of the African American descent and we realize that slavery was one of the greatest narcissistic abuse, brutal forms of all time. Now, think about the longevity effect on the culture brain. I want you all to think about that for a minute because if we're able to detach our emotional responses and defense mechanisms to look at the culture at a large and the abusive nature and things that we have gone through even post-slavery, some of the things that we become towards one another, and even now, right? Why asking ourselves, why is it that they don't want us to, and you know who they are, to be able to self-care properly once you're so overworked or zombied out? I was watching a show called Loot, and the character, Maya Rudolph's character, said one of the things that she learned about rich people was they knew and understood the value and importance of self-love and self-care. When it comes to us as a culture, it's looked upon as lazy. But that self love and self care and necessary full rest is what provides the foundation for you to be able to heal and for you to come out of that survival setting that happens from the brain damage and everything that has happened over time. Now, I'm not trying to get you all in a thither, but it's just something to meditate on. Narcissistic abuse creating brain damage. African American culture subject to the greatest narcissistic abuse, one of the greatest, you know, unfortunate seasons and years in history as we know it. Now reflect on our culture. Reflect on yourself. Reflect on your experience. Reflect on our attitudes about work, about life, about relationships. And then why is there such restrictions when it comes to just those who are narcissistic now? And in our case, some of us, it's our own culture that have morphed into that. And then the assault on you not being able to do that, not being able to properly take care of yourself, or wanting things to be really hard and difficult, wanting you to have to overexert, overwork for barely nothing, not to be able to properly tend to yourself. And when I say properly tend, I mean beyond we're just making it. You're killing yourself to be able to pay the bills, right? Why is that? Is there something greater here? Is the times that we are living in, since time is an illusion, is it just this current timeline or manifestation of dispensation, if you will? Is it just a different form of what took place in the timeline that we refer to as slavery? Because the point of slavery, they wanted to capitalize and benefit off of the talent, the gifts, and the labor of that culture, our culture, without that culture being able to fully benefit off of themselves. That's something to chew on, okay? And any attempt to get out of line was met with severity. And due to the restrictions, okay, can you see the conditioning of the abuse that's taking place there? Now, fast forward, are any of us going through that today without the other stuff, whether that be at the hands of another culture, at the hands of our own people who have, as a result, opted into that same way of being? Why am I sharing this? Let's set a goal as we have reset our timelines on 1010 to give full intention to align and do whatever we can within our means to do within reason for self-love and self-care to be made possible in a manifestation form, because that's where the true healing, the true balancing out, the true restoration will begin and will be able to be held and maintained. Maya Rudolph's character in Loot, when she said that, I just stared at the screen. She said what she learned from rich people is they understand the value and the importance of self-love and self-care. Now they have the means to do it, right? The means to. So we need to give those intentions and see what we can do, look into it, right? So case in point, for an example, we have a lot of single parents in our culture, a lot that we carry. And this expectation to be great and perfect at everything. Your house needs to be immaculate. Your car needs to be immaculate. Your children needs to be immaculate. You need to be immaculate. And you need to be on top of everything 24/7, right? But never given a space and or the importance of being able to do that, right? And why is that so limited? It requires that you're able to take out that time. And I'm going to tell you something, a day a week for some of us, or 2 days a week, is not sufficient to be able to do that, on top of the resources and money it takes to properly address your health and vitality from a holistic place, right? We have these days called mental health awareness, but we have to ask ourselves the questions: do America really care about that? Do the particular businesses really care about that? They probably care about it as it pertains to them, because again, to set themselves up to where they don't have to, they're making enough money. They're making the money off of your labor, but don't want you to fully benefit off of your labor, which keeps you what? It keeps you what? It keeps us where? You see where I'm going with all of this? Somebody's going to say, well, what's the option? As I said a moment ago, starting with our intention, starting with research, starting with doing the little things we can until we're able to manifest the fact that, yes, we need to be able to have time, space, and resources to be able to properly self-love and self-care on an ongoing basis. This is not about a one-shot deal. This is not about a once-a-year thing. Some of us out here have strenuous jobs and dire situations here, and I'm inclined to believe that's there's something to that. I'm also inclined to believe, just like in slavery, the ancestors were pushed into, their relief was church. Their relief was their gathering and praising and worshiping and singing. And that's, we know what that's really about now. No healing provided, no strength, no hope. It's just to keep the high, temporary, momentary ease, to keep you going in dis-ease. And it is high time for us to change this for all of us. But it starts with reflection. It starts with intention. And from there, actions that we can take one moment, one day, one step at a time, consistently. We deserve better. Self-love and self-care. This is how we recover our mind, our brains from narcissistic abuse.